Hey everyone, and welcome to Backseat Sports. I'm Josh, that is Caleb, and we have a lot to talk about today. Obviously, you can tell from the title why you're here. We are breaking down the Husker football season 2021. We're doing the full predictions, talking all things Husker football, and going game by game, giving a win, a loss, a prediction, and it's going to be wild. It's going to get spicy and probably controversial. So Caleb, how you doing?
Doing good. Big Ten Media Day was today.
Yes.
Got to hear Scott Frost speak. Excited to hear some of our players and other players from around the conference speak later today. So that's a spicy way to start.
Yeah.
Football is moving and grooving. We're getting closer to the season.
I know.
And that's about as exciting as it can get.
Now that the NBA's out of the way, we're like, oh, it is dead set football time now.
And we'll have the Olympics the Olympics will tide us over for a second.
Bridge us over.
Yeah. So that's the best when either the World Cup or the Olympics are going on.
That's true.
So that means football can sneak up on us even faster.
Yeah.
And that's just the way I like it. Come on, football.
Literally.
We're getting close.
I mean, how today's going to go is we're basically going to talk Nebraska at the beginning, just some of our strengths and weaknesses, some of the things we expect for the year from us. Obviously, we talk a lot about here around Nebraska, so we'll keep it more focused on the games and moving forward a little bit, breaking down some of the conference teams and the opponents. So then we'll go, after talking about Nebraska, we'll go through and break down all the teams and give our game-by-game predictions a little bit, and then overall tie with a little bit maybe bigger picture conversation at the end of the video. So with that said, I mean, talking Nebraska football, I mean, where do you begin? Obviously. I guess we can start on the offensive side of the ball and kind of talk about some of our thoughts on the offense and go to the defensive side and how it could translate to what we're looking for this season, our strengths and weaknesses. Obviously, last year we were 3-5. Right now, our Vegas odds is a flat 6 wins. So Vegas doesn't know if we want to be that 6.5, that 5.5, that 7, but they have us at 6. Which is a pretty tough line, I think, for us this year with some of the games. When you look at our schedule, obviously it's pretty difficult. But Caleb, where are you at with this offense right now? Where are your question marks? Obviously, the few things this year is replacing Wandale, replacing Diedrich, and of course, we're bringing back Adrian Martinez. So where are you at with this offense?
Yeah, I think replacing Wandale is definitely a great place to start.
Yeah.
Just because, again, he was so much production of our offense. I mean, he had just a giant usage rate for us on the offensive side of the ball.
Adrian.
Again, he was a dump off. He was our deep threat. He was our best running back, arguably. So, I mean, with all those things, he was our best slot receiver. I mean, he was just so much for our offense. He really got the ball rolling for us, and we weren't even that good of an offense to begin with. So, just taking away the security blanket is very scary as a Nebraska football team. And I mean, it's going to have to be by committee, I feel like, to replace all that he was for us. So, I mean, we lose our top 2 running backs, essentially, in Diedrich Mills and Noah Wandale. Those were 2 guys that were carrying the ball for us. So, obviously, that's a big question mark. But looking at the passing side of things, obviously being our deep threat, Omar Manning, who didn't get a play for us last year, is going to have to step up and be big for us.
Right.
Hopefully,
obviously, he was a 4-star transfer coming into last year,
and we were really excited for him.
Really big. I mean, he can be a presence on the field, but yeah, him coming in last year, he just had no chance to play, unfortunately, with some different things going on, health and COVID and
off the
all
field
that stuff.
So
unfortunate.
Hopefully, he can be on the field.
Right. And I mean, obviously, Wandale transferred to Kentucky, and that's just really, really unfortunate. He was everything for us. I don't know. I mean, my thought would
it can't be understated for us.
Oh, no, it literally can't.
How big of a loss it is.
Honestly, I think, at least in the media, it's almost a little bit underplayed how tough it's going to be to replace.
Yeah.
Wandale coming into the year. I mean, we just have to assume that, like you said, Omar Manning and Samari Torre are going to fill those gaps coming in. And that's just, it's a big shoe to fill for a small little man. And so even though Omar's feet are massive, I don't know if he can replace the small little feet, the little baby feet that Wandale would have had, So
yeah, I agree. It's big shoes.
They're big shoes for a small man. But I don't know. Samari Torre obviously coming in from Montana, and he has a great production profile at Montana, setting records over there. And so from like an explosive aspect, he has a chance to be great, but like, again, we need to bank on those 2 guys being the real deal for Adrian to kind of make that next step forward as a passer, to have that comfort to throw the ball downfield and go from there. I mean, what are your thoughts on the rest of the guys in the receiving corps? Obviously, like, Xavier Betts, Olivier Martin, our tight ends, Austin Allen, Travis Vokolek.
I think it can be solid. I think there's a number of good weapons. Again, Betts is fast. He had that end-around touchdown last year.
Yeah, he showed some explosiveness.
So hopefully, like, we could use him like Wan'Dale, like we did in the screens and stuff like that, getting some actions for him. I think that can be really useful. Again, I think we can do it. Obviously, our tight ends have been pretty good these last couple of years, and I feel like they can even make another step, like you said, with Martin, with Austin Allen and Travis Vokalek. I think that could be pretty good.
Oh yeah, Austin Allen's exciting.
Then that just comes down to the question of our quarterback in Adrian Martinez.
Fair play.
Who was a benchable quarterback last year.
He did get benched.
That's the tough truth. He was benched. That Northwestern game, we probably should have won. Obviously they had a great defense, but man, he had struggles passing the ball down the field. And luckily, hopefully with Torre and Manning, hopefully that can mask some of his maybe inability to be accurate downfield, and their bigger bodies, and their athleticism could maybe separate themselves enough where it just doesn't matter that much.
It makes it easy. And that's what we talked about last week. And you can go check out that video if you want a really in-depth breakdown on Adrian Martinez. We spent quite a bit of time talking about Adrian, his pros and weaknesses as a player, and the things that he brings to the table. And obviously he has some good qualities too with running the ball and those types of things. He shed some weight too, which hopefully he can be even more explosive this year than he was last year. And so that's where you get excited. Passing the ball is a real question for us, and that's why there's just so many moving pieces with Wan'Dale out of the picture now, where it's really hard to give an accurate projection of how good we can be in the passing game. And especially with the inconsistencies with our offensive line and pass protection too last year, that's where it gets tough.
And we lose two very veteran guys in Jaimes and Farniok. So both of those guys ended up being drafted. So there's a lot of holes to fix there too.
Right.
So that's, again, just a lot of question marks. Obviously, hopefully, I think, Scott Frost said today in his press conference that he was most excited to show off the offensive line,
which is interesting.
Which is interesting, again, because we lost a lot. So that makes us hopeful. And again, we do have a lot of good prospects that hopefully we were just developing. Again,
again, like Bryce Benhart last year, he was questionable. Obviously he has the build, a frame, like 6'9", like 300 something pounds. He's a big boy, but like he did not look great for most of the year. And then so now, you're bringing in like Turner Cochran to come in here and make plays. And that's a question mark still at left tackle. So those are where you're just like wondering, like he looked okay against Rutgers last year, but that's one game against Rutgers. So
Rutgers.
It's like, hopefully he can come in and make big time plays. I'm still pretty optimistic about that. And I think our O-line can be improved. But the question is, how improved? Can we go from like in the 80s to can we jump into like the top 40? Or is it more of like a 50s, 60s, 70s type look of a ranking for O-line?
Again, I think even a parallel movement would be pretty good.
Acceptable.
I think would be pretty acceptable at this point. I think that's fair. Pretty likely.
So then running game would be the last thing there.
Really interesting.
Replacing Diedrich. Obviously, the big question mark here is Marquise Stepp, the transfer from USC. And can we have another transfer come in and replace our previous transfer who's now gone? And again, this is another massive question mark for this offense. It's hard to say. And we do have a lot of pretty solid options there. But again, all of them are just solid, like with Marvin Scott, Sevion Morrison, and like with Jack Yant. he looked really good in the spring game too. So then you got like Ramir Johnson, Gabe Irvin, who showed some flashes in the spring game. And then Ronald Tompkins ended up transferring. But there's quite a lot of bodies here with the running back core. So where's your confidence with like Stepp and that top few guys? Can they fill the gaps?
Yeah, that's definitely the question. I feel like there's definitely a possibility. I'm not super confident in Stepp. Again, we just didn't have a ton of film, and like him
he didn't have the production that that Diedrich
Mills
did
was definitely a different situation.
Yes,
much different than Marquise Stepp. Mills was a freshman who started and
had great production his freshman year.
Production. Yeah, exactly. And I think Stepp can be okay, but hopefully by committee. I think with Yant, with Irvin, Morrison, like hopefully two of those guys, if two, I don't care who, really step up and become cream of the crop running backs, and we can have a couple.
Nebraska corn.
Yeah, exactly.
Shout out our tier rankings videos.
Exactly. If we can have a couple Nebraska corn running backs this year,
yes,
I think this offense can be really something. And we're gonna need two of them.
The running game is where we have confidence. We know that Adrian can run the ball effectively. The question is, can he hold on to the ball while he's running it? That's the big question around here. And obviously turnovers plagued us last year. So offensively, that's where we're at. So again, we don't want to spend too much time or else the video is going to be literally an hour long. But I guess we can move on to the defensive side. At least heading into the year, we were returning 10 of 11, but we unfortunately lost Will Honus to what looks like to be a season-ending injury. In the spring, it was a non-contact knee injury, which we didn't have any more clarity on from Nebraska. Besides that, they're always really stickler with the injuries. So probably going to miss the whole year, which really sucks. That's just unbelievably unfortunate. Best case scenario, he's back like week 9, 10, somewhere in there. So that just really sucks. He was probably going to be debatably the leader of our defense this year, a really promising player. So we're returning 9 of our 11 starters from last year. Obviously, DiCaprio Buddha left to the NFL. And Quentin Newsome is probably going to be that guy coming in there. Braxton Clark will also be the guy that might rotate in once in a while too. And they both look pretty good. So I think we have enough confidence in our secondary to be very, very good, obviously, with returning so many super seniors this year. So we have an extremely veteran defense, insanely veteran defense compared to what you could normally have. So where are you at with this team? Obviously, the linebacking core is interesting with replacing Will Honus, with all those guys. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, again, I think our secondary is definitely going to be the best part of the defense. Again, I think we were like 38th in the country and like bringing back like production on the defensive side. So like we're really high up there. Like you said, obviously we're bringing in a ton of our starters back. I mean, I think, again, our secondary can improve. I think Dismuke, Cam Taylor, Britt, all of them, I think, can even make, another step. Right. Our linebacking core definitely is interesting. Losing Will Honus, like, who's going to fill that as a, Heinrich, Kalerovec. I do trust them, and I think that they can get better, even like, Snodgrass or maybe even Maga Clements.
Yeah.
Obviously, we got JoJo who played the outside.
We trust JoJo. We trust Cam Taylor.
And he
kind
of switched his position. So, maybe another year at the outside linebacker could be really helpful for him.
More pass rush.
Exactly. So I think that can hopefully even build that, and he can even take some sort of step in understanding the schemes a little bit better. So, I mean, I think that's definitely possible. Our front three is interesting. Ben Stilley is coming back, Damian Daniels, and Ty Robinson. And again, Ty Robinson showed a lot of promise as a young dude. And
he's a redshirt freshman.
And Damian Daniels had a couple good sacks and was a pretty good run stopper for us. And I think Ben Stilley, is our best edge rusher presence. Again, so I think they are going to take some sort of a step forward. And then Casey Rogers coming in, and Jordan Riley's interesting too.
Yes.
Again, I don't think it's bad, and I definitely don't think we're regressing any in that position. So how much further up of a step can they take on the defensive line? I think
the pass rush and the run stopping, or like, how much pass rush are we going to have? How's the run stopping up front going to be? And that's where you get a little bit worried.
And if our linebackers, I think, have the ability, the front seven has the ability to be really good at run stop. And if I think that is the case this year, if that does happen,
then this defense,
watch out. Nebraska can be a really, really good team if that can be the case, if this front seven, because we're going to face a lot of really good run teams. Obviously, it's the Big Ten, so we do that anyway all the time. But if that can be the case, I think this could be a really exciting year for the Nebraska Cornhuskers. So I think a lot depends on that front seven, on how far forward we can leap.
I agree. I mean, we saw some big time promise from Reimer in the pass rush side of things last year when he looked really, really good. And Stilley, I think, really showed more and more improvement in the pass rush too, and he started looking really, really good. So then you're like, okay, who are the other linebackers that can get to the quarterback? JoJo needs to take a big time step up in pass rush, and if he can, then we're in a really, really good spot. I think with both of our outside linebackers be able to make plays and getting to the quarterback. And then, we saw Deontay Williams make some big time plays in blitzing packages towards the quarterback last year.
Lot.
And so if we can utilize him better around the line of scrimmage, I think that's where it gets really, really exciting for us. And the more ISO that we can play on the outside, the better. Yeah, exactly. And he was really, really good. So Deontay Williams, it was huge to get him back. Just overall for like having that trust in the secondary to make that big time play when somebody gets through the front seven. So, overall, again, I think we are pretty excited about our defense as a whole, where we could be a top 40 defense for sure this year. And then we have upside of top 25 if our run stopping can get there, and we can really, if we have the speed on the outside. I think it's always the question mark is how well can we tackle in the flats and with our linebacking core. That's always the question. And maybe Deontay Williams can help patch some of those holes again this year as we continue to see him stepping up in that way. But That's the question mark. So with all of that already said, we can head into our schedule now, which of course we kick off the year against the new and revived Illinois team in Champaign. Obviously, they have a new head coach. We got Brett Bielema in town. He
spicy.
haunts our dreams, as the last time we saw him was in 2012, Wisconsin, of course, coaching that squad. And so
that beat us for the Big Ten championship when we already beat them.
And obviously last year, Illinois literally crushed our dreams like freaking Luke Skywalker and the Mandalorian. Crushed our dreams and shattered them. We lost 41-23 against them last year, and that was pain. That was suffering.
And we started off with that awesome backwards pass.
Beating us by 18.
What a great way to start.
Beating us by 18 was not enough to keep Lovie Smith in town. At home. That was not enough to keep Lovie Smith in town. So that's a bad sign. They were 2-6 last year. And we are currently 7.5-point favorites. Actually, it's the only game we have a line for right now. And Vegas's odds for Illinois is 3.5 wins. So we should, according to the public, win this game. And I think both of us feel that way as well, that we should win this game. But that's the problem. We should win it.
Yeah. I mean, digging into this Illinois team, they're not terrible. They're not as bad as the Vegas line would tell you.
I'd smash the over on that 3.5 offensively. Brandon Peters.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the guy.
Brandon Peters.
You know?
Yeah, and he killed us last year.
Yeah, that's the thing. So like, when you look at like Brandon Peters, and then we highlighted Isaiah Williams, the quarterback last year, who had some insane moments at QB last year because he's an elusive runner, and he's moved to wide receiver this year because a lot of their players actually left the team, and they had a lot of in and outs with guys transferring, things like that. And like Amader Bebe is gone, so the receiving room is kind of drawn down, and they have a lot of guys coming in and coming out. So it's gonna be interesting with that receiving room. They moved Isaiah Williams there. So as a whole, you have confidence in this running game with Chase Brown at running back, trying to find that pacing with them. And then Brandon Peters showed some promise throughout his time, and he seemed to get better as the year went on last year. And obviously they lit us up.
Yeah, Chase Brown's really terrifying. I mean, he was third team All Big Ten last year, 5.2 yards per carry, and just Brett Bielema plus a pretty good or a very good Big Ten All Big Ten running back is a nasty combination for us. And they also got a couple really good transfers from that wide receiver room. They got Jafar Armstrong, who transferred in from Notre Dame, and Brian Hightower, who is 6'3", 220, and he transferred from Miami. And he's probably going to fill in that Josh Materbebe's role. Yeah. So I think they filled it pretty good. I think that Bielema's done a good job thus far. Right. And again, their offense could be okay. I think they can pick up their
passing game, they'll be a little scary. Last year, they were just an awful passing team, and they still beat us. And that's what gets scary. I just think that our team should be ready and ready to lock and loaded for this team. Defensively, they had some interesting pieces, but it was all over the place, and it was not a good performance last year. So this year, you're looking at like Tariq Barnes and Isaiah Gay and Tony Adams. Those guys, Tariq Barnes, linebacker, Isaiah Gay is an edge rusher, and then Tony Adams is their safety. It's kind of like three guys that looked pretty good last year that are coming back. So
yeah, I mean, they'll have a pretty good edge rush. Like their two best defenders are probably their edge rushers. So
right, and Jake Hansen's back, of course, and he was kind of like their core of that team with just making the tackles around the field, the kind of the Band-Aid that made a lot of big time plays, leading tackler, really, really great tackler in space. And so as a whole, I'm pretty optimistic about this team compared to most. I have us winning this game, though, in Champaign off the rip. I think it's going to be a closer win than most think. I would probably bet the under on that 7.5 point line right now. I'm not that confident in us coming out here and showing up. But again, it comes down to we're on the road. First game of the year, I imagine it's going to be messy and there's going to be a lot of turnovers. And that's where I get worried.
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully both teams are both looking a little bit sloppy, or we're looking a little bit sharp, because I definitely think this Illinois team poses a lot more problems and could be even more dangerous than last year. Again, with a really good running back and a coach that we know is really good at coaching the run game, I definitely think that is a recipe for some sort of disaster to start the year. Luckily, I think our defense...
There's a lot riding on this game. If we lose this game, the whole trajectory of our season plummets. I mean,
we can lose full just right away. I think our team can.
Any potential of like 7-8 wins, goes out the door if you lose to Illinois, and so that's why this game is huge, ginormous for us to come out here and look really, really good. So I'm interested to see I mean, I think we both feel decent about it, but it's going to be scary.
I mean, I'll pick us to win, but I see very many scenarios where we could lose this game. It's definitely, it's well within, it's not just within the realm of possibility. It's very plausible.
Yeah, I agree. So next game up here is good news. It's against Fordham, an FCS team. Let's go. I mean, to be fair, last year they only played 3 games, and they did play spring ball, and they went 2-1 in those games. Their only loss was to Holy Cross. They lost 24-34 to Holy Cross. They beat Colgate and Bucknell 40-8 and 31-17. Offensively, their quarterback, the only guy I wanted to highlight was Tim DeMarat. He looked actually pretty good in the little film that I watched of this team. So, you know, maybe they could make some plays downfield and they could catch a few points, but I think we're going to win this game pretty handily.
Yeah, I'm pretty comfortable about this one being a W.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, anything else to say there about Fordham, or else we want to move on?
Their special teams look suspect in their game against Holy Cross.
There was a highlight. Oh my word!
I'll call it now. Cam Taylor Britt's blocking a punt. I'll call that one. I'll call that
based
now.
off what we saw against Holy Cross. We might be blocking some punts in this game.
Yeah.
But okay, so Buffalo's up next, and this one gets scary because Vegas's odds for Buffalo is 8.5 wins right now on the over/under. Last year they were 6-1. They lost in the MAC championship to Ball State 38-28. Their head coach, good news, he left to go to Kansas, and so there is a lot of in and outs with this team, with a lot of their players transferring with him to Kansas, and so. When with Lance Leipold gone, they have Maurice Lindquist coming in. He's a defensive guy. He was a secondaries coach for the Cowboys last year, actually. And so there's just a lot of question marks with his defense. It was dead awful last year, but their offense is what we got to highlight. So what do you think about Buffalo, Caleb?
They are very, very scary. This is a good team that beat good teams last year.
They were a top 25 team last year. That's what's scary.
And they were creeping up. I mean, if they would have not have lost to Ball State, I mean, they probably were looking at it, a New Year's Six type deal.
Very possible
for them. So, and they ended up beating
Carolina
Marshall.
Ended up getting.
Yeah, they ended up beating Marshall, who was, again, another ranked in the top 25 team last year in their bowl game. This is a very good team. Their quarterback is coming back. Kyle Van Treese is a third-year starter, 63% completion. They didn't really force him to throw it a lot because they didn't need to.
And they weren't good at it.
Their run game is insane. But he was accurate. I mean, in his 2 years, he's 15 touchdowns to 5 picks passing. And he's a pretty good runner. But their best runner is
Kevin
Jarrett Patterson. Well, yeah. So Jarrett Patterson was their best running back last year. And luckily, he's gone. He's in Washington football team now.
Yeah.
But yes, Kevin Marks, as Josh said, is their new best running back.
And he looked good last year. I mean, he had a big game in their bowl game against Marshall, and overall showed a lot of promise. The big thing for them is that their offensive line last year was insane. The Hogs up front were legit, and that's what's scary for us this year, is that they have a lot of returning talent, some very talented O-linemen that are NFL prospects. And last year they had guys get picked up by a lot of guys go to the NFL last year, and they still have a lot of guys who are looking towards the NFL this year. So they're not going to be the same like top 25 caliber team that they were last year, more than likely, especially because their defense is going to be really bad.
But their best guys, Gaddafi Wright, linebacker, who was the all-MAC, tackler, and he's back for a super senior season.
Yeah,
but
and he graded out really, really well last year. And so besides that, though, they have you can beat them in a lot of ways. You can they got shredded, and their secondary got shredded multiple times last year, but luckily they ran the ball over a lot of teams, and that's how they won games. So, I mean, I think we're both fairly nervous about this game. Luckily, it's in Memorial Stadium, and so, and we have a tune-up game with Fordham heading into this one to kind of give us on the right track. And there's a reason why we wanted Fordham to be our team this year. We rescheduled to have Fordham. Originally, we're gonna have a bye we can play right away. But we wanted another tune-up game heading into this Buffalo game because it is a trap, scary game. And so,
yes,
personally, I think we can win this game. I think we can move the ball, and our offense will be good enough to make things happen. But it is scary when you look at those matchups of their offensive line vs our defense. This could be a pretty high-scoring game with a lot of points on the board, and I could see this being like a 35-28, 42-35 type game with a lot of points on the board. But I'm going to take us to win in Memorial Stadium. Caleb, how you feeling over there?
if Lance was still the coach at Buffalo and all those players didn't leave,
terrified.
we would have lost this game, I think.
Yeah.
The fact that he left is very promising. I think we definitely can win. And like you said, I think the scenario is their defense isn't good and we can just run the ball, tire them out, beat them in the second half type deal just because we're the bigger, better, stronger team.
Right.
But I am terrified of their offense, and their offensive line is so good. And their running game is so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, because this isn't Northern Illinois. This isn't Northern Illinois. This isn't Troy. This isn't McNeese State. This is a really good team coming in. And I'll pick us to lose.
Dang, dude.
It's a terrifying game.
Is it solely because that running matchup you're just scared? I mean, obviously, I think I have a little bit more faith in our front seven to run stop than you do, and that's kind of I think that's where we
turnovers.
differ here.
I mean, the thing is, we self-inflict the wounds on ourselves. If we didn't fumble the ball, and if we didn't throw easy picks, I'd say we'd win this game. But I think just doing that, if we do that twice against this team, which is possible, again, a team that's not a very good defense, but we give them some layups. If we give them good field position by turning the ball over, I think we'd lose this one because this isn't a bad football team by any means.
Man. That would be tough.
It's
That'd
be
tough.
It's scary.
Again,
we can win this, though.
Fans do have to look at this not as some sort of cupcake game that we normally would see with MAC schools. That's definitely not the case. And so
this team could very well. Are they probably better than Illinois?
I would say they're better than Illinois.
No, they're better than. I would agree. So I mean, again, this is a top 25 team last year.
Yeah,
they're no. I mean, again, if Lance was still there, I mean, them would have been rolling into Memorial Stadium. This is still a giant game for them. You know how it is for the little schools.
This is their biggest game of the year, right? They got to win this. They want to win this, and they think they can. I'm sure they think they can. So that's the question mark. So okay, well that's a tough one for Nebraska fans to hear, Caleb. You're hurting their hearts over there.
We can.
What's gonna hurt even more is going to Norman, Oklahoma. That's gonna hurt a lot. And so we are going to Norman week 4. Obviously, I mean Oklahoma, depending on the poll you're looking at, they're a top 2 team in the country right now. The NCAA, they have them at number 3.
ESPN
over under Vegas, they have them at 11.
1. They're 1 to 4.
Obviously, they have the Heisman favorite on their team, Spencer Rattler. He's the talk of the town. He is an insane player. He was making highlights in high school where we saw some footage of him zinging the football around. You're like, who is this kid?
No,
and he's come out looked great last
it.
year. Spencer Rattler is going to be terrifying.
Yeah, no, we've seen Spencer Rattler clips since he was a sophomore in high school.
Yeah,
we have seen clips of him since
he's the presumed number 1 overall pick next year.
It reminds me like Lamar Jackson of that crazy highlight he had where he just stops and waltzes in the end zone in high school. We knew that this guy was going to be really, really good.
There's a reason we didn't want to play this game. I'm whispering it quietly over here, but there's a reason that
Scott Frost tried to get out of this game. There's a reason we tried to get a different team.
Because this is going to be ugly. Obviously, since they brought in Alex Grinch, Grinch is a great name for a defensive coordinator, by the way. But since he was the D coordinator brought in, he was the co-defensive coordinator for Ohio State in 2018 and was the defensive coordinator for Mike Leach at Washington State before that. And since he came to Oklahoma, this team has been a championship contender. They have looked very, very good. Their defense is great. I mean, we are going to lose. It's going to be bad. It's going to be bad.
At least 30.
Yeah. I would imagine
20.
the over-under for this game, points-wise, is going to be 28.
Yeah.
Somewhere in there, 27.5, something like that. Probably it's going to get ugly. I don't know if there's much more to talk about in this game. We'll do obviously, heading into each week, we'll do full predictions. And in those videos, we'll give narratives for how Nebraska could pull the miracle off upset and how it could happen. We'll talk more about it there.
Could you imagine if we won?
There will be champagne popped on camera
I'd be just showering myself with the whole video. That'd be the whole video.
Insane. But all right, so off next game is a really interesting game. I'm hoping to be at this game actually at Michigan State in MSU East Lansing. Right now, Vegas isn't very excited about this team. They have a 4.5 win total, and last year record they were 2-5. Obviously, interestingly enough, it's Mel Tucker's second year. Mel Tucker was the coach at Colorado in 2019, the year that they beat us in Buffalo. 34-31. So that's what gets scary is like,
he knows
maybe
our
Mel
team. He
Kiper
scouted our
coach
team.
us. Who knows? That's where this game gets a little bit scary. Last year, Rocky Lombardi, this is the best addition by subtraction of all time. He left to Northern Illinois. And so that is an improvement for MSU. Congrats to you Spartan fans, because Rocky Lombardi's gone. So
I mean,
Anthony
they gave
Russo,
us that 9-6 win against Rocky Lombardi in the snow. What a great time.
Oh, that was a great game to watch, man. Oh, my word. But yeah, Anthony Russo's transferring in from Temple, and so he'll be competing with Peyton Thorne for the quarterback job right now. It's definitely not dead set about who's going to be that quarterback, but Russo, he has an arm and he can sling it, but he's had a lot of injuries and there's a lot of question marks about him kind of heading into this. So that's kind of what's weird here.
Yeah, no, exactly. The injuries are really the question mark for them. Their wide receiver core isn't going to be bad for Michigan State.
Yeah.
They got Jalen Naylor Jr. and Jalen Reed Jr., fun enough. And they're, both averaging over
Trevon
19
Morgan
yards
as well.
per catch. So they heaved it downfield last year. And that was the other funny thing is they were really good inside the red zone when they got there.
But they were awful at scoring. They were dead last in the Big Ten in yards and scoring, but they were elite in the red zone. Like, what?
They capitalized. They're like, we're not going to be
sense.
here again for the rest of the game, so we better score those touchdowns.
Word. It's like a kid going to a candy store. It's like, you better get all the candy you can get while you're there, Like, what in the world?
Oh, man.
But yeah, so that's what gets tough is like try to figure out how big they're going to improve offensively. They are returning all 5 O-linemen. So you could see an improvement in the running game, and that's what they really need to focus on. I mean, the passing game, there's a world where this offense could completely U-turn, but it seems unlikely this year. Like, if Anthony Russo is like legit insane, then maybe you have a chance to suddenly have a really interesting offense. But they're gonna be based on, hopefully they can turn this defense around and keep games low scoring and close. What's weird about this team is that they beat 2 top 25 teams last year, but they went 2-5. They had an insanely tough schedule.
Harder than our schedule.
But they
last year.
beat Michigan in Michigan when they were a top 25 team at the time. Obviously, Michigan's season didn't go as planned. But then they beat Northwestern at home as well. So there's some real potential here for this team to make some plays. And that's why you can't feel very confident about us heading there. It's going to be a really close game.
And the commonality between those two teams is those were two teams that had great defenses in Michigan and Northwestern, but didn't have offenses.
And
that's how I feel we are. We fit that to the T this next year. We have we'll be an okay offense, hopefully, but a pretty good defense. So right. I agree. I think we'll win this game. It's definitely going to be really close.
It's going to be close.
Being the away team makes it scary, but I think again with them not having any offense, I just think that we can hold them to less points at this point, and I think we can force turnovers on this team. I think we can maybe even win the turnover battle against Michigan State.
Yeah, I mean that's really the question mark is always going to be the turnovers with this Adrian Martinez led offense on the road, and we have seen some terrifying things happen on the road. I mean, even against Rutgers last year, we had 4 turnovers in that game, barely eked it out. And so that's where you get really nervous here. I'm going to have us to win as well, but it is close to say the least. And would I be surprised if we end up blowing it? No. So now we got a home game against Northwestern. Obviously, they were great last year. 7-2 last year, 6-2 in the Big Ten last year. But Vegas has them at a 6-win over/under. That because this team has lost so many contributing players. They lost a massive amount of talent. And so that's where you have the questions come into play here for them. We lost them, of course, 21-13 last year in a very close game. Their defensive coordinator, Mike Hankwitz, has decided to retire. He'd been there for a long time, 10 plus years. And so Jim O'Neill's coming in from the Raiders. He was the defensive backs coach for the Raiders last year. So what are your thoughts on this Northwestern team?
Yeah, I mean, again, they're just losing a lot. I think that's the perfect way to just summarize what I've been seeing. Drake Anderson is gone and Isaiah Bowser's gone.
Yeah,
so they're two best running backs. Yeah, they had great running backs last year. So that's going to really hurt for them. Peyton Ramsey is also gone. Again, the defensive coordinator is gone. They just lost a lot. And last year kind of seemed like, again, with Hankwitz leaving, like everybody knew that it was a big season for them. They had a lot to play for.
Yeah.
And they really rallied around that.
And they looked good.
Yeah, they did look good. I think it's a really beatable team. their best players, Peter Skronsky, an offensive lineman, Keurig McGowan, and then so like their offense again is nothing to be really scared about. Obviously, I think their defense is going to rebound. We know that is who Northwestern is. So I think that it's going to be a scrappy game, but I think that talent can prevail in this one and probably will. And I think that Nebraska.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to try to run the ball. They're going to try to keep things interesting and keep it close and bounce back on defense. I mean, obviously, you can never underestimate these Pat Fitzgerald Northwestern teams. We've literally every single freaking year it's been close. And so that's what gets really scary. They're going to have Hunter Johnson, maybe, at quarterback. I don't know. I don't really believe this team's going to be very good. Cam Porter, their running back, actually looked pretty good at points last year. So I can see them just running the ball pretty effectively. And they can get around that, 5-6 wins mark, I think makes a lot of sense for this team.
It just feels like the year after they made the Big Ten championship where they were just the worst offense in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
And and we beat them. I feel like it's going to be that kind of year again.
All their talent goes to the NFL. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So I think it's going to be a really close game again, though. I'll probably end up taking whatever the under ends up being. Whatever the line is for this game, I'll probably end up taking the under. But I think we're going to win. I'm not that confident, but I think we're going to win this game. So now on to a Michigan game at home again here. So this is a really interesting stretch for Nebraska where you have teams where there's a lot of changing pieces, moving pieces, teams that Vegas doesn't really know what to think about. Michigan's one of those teams as well. Right now, a 7.5 over under in Vegas. So a little bit lower than what you might expect for a Michigan type team, a Jim Harbaugh team. Last year record, they were 2-4 last year, obviously really struggled. And they were 0-3 at home, which is crazy to think about like that in the big house. So they have a new defensive coordinator as well, and the rumor is they might be transferring to a 3-4 scheme. Ironically, Mike McDonald's their new coordinator, and he was the linebackers coach at the Ravens with Jim Harbaugh's brother, John. So he's sending over some personnel, the family connections, and doing that. So I don't know, where you at with this Michigan team and what this game could look like for us in Memorial Stadium?
Yeah, I mean, again, Michigan just always has a lot of really good talent. Joe Milton and Dylan McCaffrey are gone for them, so that'll be kind of interesting. Cade McNamara is going to be their most likely starting quarterback, or Alan Bowman from Texas Tech. He kind of transferred and is hurt. But so that'll be kind of an interesting quarterback battle to watch as this preseason progresses for them. Ronnie Bell is a really good wide receiver that they have.
Oh, he's really good, dude. He is a contested catch unit. I really like watching Ronnie Bell.
Oh, and Hassan Haskins is a really good running back too that they have. He was there at media days for them. I'll be interested to see what he has to say. But he averaged over 6 yards per carry last year, and he had 6 touchdowns on that shortened season. I think he's definitely very impressive. And again, they have a good offensive line. They figure it out. Obviously, their quarterback's really been what's woeing them, but
which is crazy for a Jim Harbaugh-led Michigan team, But man,
because they usually get a quarterback, which is kind of what he's known for. So I guess Michigan fans and Nebraska fans can kind of take solace in that. Again, Harbaugh had great quarterbacks in the past, come to Michigan to never find a good quarterback. Scott Frost obviously has had really good quarterbacks in the past, come to Nebraska, never have a good quarterback. So that's kind of how the cookies crumbled for both of them. If they could just find the good quarterback, they'd probably get over the hump.
Right. Defensively, they're going to be a solid team. It's hard to see this team being an elite team. I don't see this being like a 10-win team. That would be really surprising. I think the 7.5 line's pretty good. They feel like that 7-8 win type team, probably 8 would make a lot of sense. It's right there. And so with that said, I think we're going to lose this game, but it's winnable. There's a world where this team, their quarterbacks they don't figure it out. They have some problems. It's very winnable. It's at home for us. So that's why I'm really, really on the fence here, but I'm going to take us in a close loss at home. And that one's going to hurt because it would have been like, what if we beat Michigan? We could really have an insane year. And I think we're going to lose a close one at home.
I agree. I think this is a loss. But yeah, I mean, again, there's definitely plenty of ways Nebraska can win this game. I think a lot like Northwestern. It's just a lot of Big Ten teams. I mean, I think a lot of teams in the Big Ten, right, will beat teams they're not supposed to because their offenses aren't amazing, and we all have pretty decent defenses, and a lot of them are coin flips.
Yeah, exactly. And they got a lot of pro talent still on that team, and a lot of pro prospects like Aiden Hutchinson and Josh Ross and like those guys. I think they're going to still be a very talented team, and obviously offensively, like we mentioned before. So we'll be interested. I'll be very, very interested to see what happens in this game, and that'll be a fun one to predict when we get closer to it and kind of feel out how Michigan's playing.
Yeah,
and we'll already be like
season.
6 games into the year, so that's gonna be a really, really fun video. I'm already looking forward to that one for sure. So
agreed.
Now we got this is a crucial game. This is a turning point game for our team. If we can pull this one out, now suddenly we're looking at a very solid season this year with a chance to make some noise heading into our last really tough few games here. So we have Minnesota on the road. We're playing up in Minnesota. They have an over-under of 7 wins right now. They were 3-4 last year. Obviously, we had a devastating loss to them last year. We lost 24-17. And they had a lot of COVID problems.
Like
they had
35 players
leading into the game.
For like a week.
We turned the ball over. We looked horrible. We were getting torn up. And they were running the ball on us. And again, Mohamed Ibrahim is the guy to look at here. He torched us last year. He torched us while he's been in college. And they're returning a lot of talented offensive linemen. Classic Minnesota right here, man. How you feeling?
That game was the Illinois and Minnesota game were devastating last year.
Yeah.
I think the Minnesota one was probably the most devastating loss I've had in a long, long time as a Nebraska fan, just because we were so confident we'd win the game. We knew they hadn't practiced, that so much hadn't happened for them. And then for us just to lose the way we did was extremely painful. And Tanner Morgan's a good quarterback who's coming back. They have a good offensive line.
He had a bad year last year,
running back. Chris Aubin-Bell, that is nice. Tanner Morgan did suck last year.
Yeah, but Rashad Bateman's gone now, obviously, to the Ravens. So, Aubin-Bell is the guy to look at here, is kind of like that outside guy to make some plays.
But their
downfield.
best lineman, their best offensive lineman didn't play last year. I think two they didn't opt in,
great last name, Daniel Falele.
Yeah, so they're getting all their guys back.
He's 6'9", 400 pounds. That is freaking ridiculous.
And good. Not a bad 400, can move.
400? What? That's like some Madden creative player. Oops, hold the slider all the way, and it goes to 400. What? Yeah, so that's what gets really scary is, are they going to run the ball all over us? And again, I'm higher on our defense, again, like I said, than you and our ability to stop the run. So I have a little bit of confidence in this game that we at least have a legit shot to win. I'm not very high on this Minnesota team. I don't think their defense is going to be very good.
Justice Harris being their best player as a safety.
I think this is very winnable for us. The question is, are they just going to put up 40 points on us because they're going to run the ball and have 350 yards rushing? And that seems very possible.
See, again, Tanner Morgan doesn't turn the ball over. Ibrahim doesn't really turn over the ball, and that's why they win a lot of games.
It's on the road.
And on the road. They're good at home. They're good at home.
And PJ Flex outcoached us the last 2 years, and that's what's scary.
He's cooked Scott Frost. There is no other words besides Scott Frost got absolutely flamed.
And so it's do you trust Scott Frost and Adrian Martinez not to make the mistakes on the road in a big time? This is going to be a huge game for both programs in this year, a turning point game for both teams. Do you trust them to not make mistakes? And that's where I get terrified, and I don't trust us not to make the mistakes. And so again, I'm going to take us in the closest of losses. Probably some heartbreaker on the road where we lose by a field goal in Minnesota.
I'm pretty confident we'll lose this game. I think we'll lose by a couple touchdowns. I feel more confident against Michigan than I do against this Minnesota team, and that sucks.
Do you feel more confident about Iowa at home?
Yeah.
Man, yeah, that's what's tough too. So we'll get there in a second.
I think Minnesota is gonna do pretty well this year. So
would you take the over on 7 wins for Minnesota? That's a pretty high line, though. I don't know.
I think their schedule's pretty cupcakey.
It is.
So
cupcakey.
I think I'd take the over.
Man. All right, we got Purdue now at home, though. At least we got a game we can win here again. 5 wins over under for Vegas, 2-4 last year. Obviously, we beat them last year, 37-27, our best performance of the whole year. It was like we won the Super Bowl when we won that game. I was like, we beat them. We beat Purdue. Finally.
The sloppiest of games.
Yeah,
man.
It was terrible. They have a new coordinator in Brad Lambert as well from Marshall. I mean, obviously, Marshall had a really, really good team these last few years, and so maybe he can make an impact. Obviously, Rondale Moore's gone, thank goodness. But David Bell is still there. He was very, very, very good, and he's been looking great for them. And then it's a quarterback battle between Jake Plummer and Aiden O'Connell. Again, here we are, round 2, ding, 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 for both of them. Obviously, I don't think either of them are very good. They were awful in the red zone last year as a team. I don't think this team's going to be very good. Where are you at with Purdue?
Yeah, Rondell Moore, their best player's gone. I mean, yeah, they're...
Derek Barnes, their leading tackler on defense, the kind of leader, the core of that team's gone too.
Again, I think this is really beatable. This is a team that makes a lot of mistakes. I think they're going to continue to make a lot of mistakes. They'll probably be able to put up points.
And we're at home. We're winning this game.
We're home.
I'm confident.
I feel pretty confident.
Clip it. We are winning this game. We are winning this game. I'm very confident. I'll give us my highest confidence of the whole year outside of like Fordham.
Yeah,
I feel very good that we're going to win this game.
Yeah.
So there you go. I think we can win it. Caleb, you think we're going to win it?
Yeah, I think so.
All right. Heck yeah. I think we match up pretty well against this team too with their strengths and weaknesses as a whole. It'll probably be a more low scoring game. I could see this one being like a 24-21, 24-17 type like game where I think we're in control most of the game, but it just does it being pretty close. But I think that's where
I think we're gonna score a lot of points. Honestly.
Oh, really?
I don't think their defense is that good.
Okay. All right. Well, speaking of games that are going to be close. So next up, we've got Ohio State at home. Very close.
Yeah, Josh, I think the same with Purdue, right? This is a win. We can just move on now.
Moving on. But Vegas obviously have them at 11 wins. They're going to be a top 5 team on the year. They're incredible. The only reason why they're not a locked and loaded top 3 team is because quarterback. You don't exactly know how good they're going to be there.
Going to be, how
replacing Justin Fields. And so they were 7-1 last year. Obviously, we got blown out by them last year, 52-17. Nothing surprising there. They have a lot of returning talent. Their O-line should be very, very good. Guys like Thayer Munford and all those guys. Defensively, of course, you still got Zach Harrison and a lot of that talent. So as a whole, obviously, receiving core, I mean, the skill positions are all still looking really, really good. Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson. I mean, Olave coming back was really surprising.
I can't believe
he came back. And then Mayan Williams, I mean, he looked really, really good last year. So they're going to put up points. We are in trouble. Is there much else to say here? We're going to get blown out.
No, we're going to get destroyed. So have a fun time.
I mean, you're welcome, Ohio State. Enjoy your year.
Yeah, just enjoy before the game.
Catch these hands in like 7 years, all right? Catch these hands in 7 years. We'll be back at it again, throwing right hooks, looking like Jake Paul out there. Like we'll be throwing.
Hopefully not like Jake Paul.
Throwing them right hooks, big old rights landing on Nate Robinson or whoever it is. So, okay, Wisconsin's up next. Obviously, this is going to be a tough game. We are in Wisconsin, and Caleb, how you feel about this team? Obviously, they're really good.
One day we'll beat them. I can't wait for that day. It's not this year, though. It's not this year. Graham Mertz is not that great, but he's enough. He's not like stupid Jack Cohn. He's
hearing
enough.
The name Graham Mertz just makes you want to throw up a little.
Jalen Berger's fine.
I hate this team. I'll be honest. I hate this team.
I always hate this team. Sam Bourne's a good linebacker who's gonna get drafted. Leo.
Oh yeah. I mean Jake Ferguson.
He's gonna be good. I mean their defense is gonna. I mean we're not
Leo
gonna win this game.
Oh goodness. Yeah, that's the thing.
Nakia Watson's a good back.
They're returning 8 of their 11 starters, and their defense was like, top 10 last year. They were very, very good defense last year. It seems like they're going to be just fine again. It really comes down to how good is Graham Mertz. That's the question. Is Graham Mertz legit? If he's legit, then they're going to be a scary team. If he's just a bust and kind of sucks and he's just kind of meh, then they're beatable. And this is winnable, but it's in Camp Randall, and that's where you get scary. It just feels like we're
even
just
if Graham Mertz was mad, their team's just too solid the rest of the way around.
Yeah, it just feels like we're not there yet,
No.
Offensively, and that's where it's at. It's really offensively. It was where I just don't think we can against elite defenses.
We can compete. Yeah.
It just doesn't feel like we're gonna get there. Again, we're gonna talk about best case scenarios at the end of the video and where maybe there's things that turn the right way for us where we have a chance. But right now, I gotta predict a loss. In all pure honesty and in my goodwill, I have to predict an honest loss here.
It's an L.
Yeah, I'd imagine it'll be like a 12-point line or something, maybe a little bit bigger. It depends how they
it just
look on
doesn't
the
feel
year.
like the Wisconsin team from 2 years ago, like where we had a chance at home.
No.
And like we were especially special teams away because all they had was Jonathan Taylor that year. It wasn't a good team. Their defense had a lot of changes, and we really did feel. Yeah, really did feel good about them because they turned over the ball quite a bit for that team. That doesn't feel like the case. Their defense is a lot better this year. Their offense feels like it has more facets. It's not just Jonathan Taylor one-dimensional from a couple years ago. This is a better all-around football team. I definitely don't see the weaknesses.
That's what's interesting. So our last game here is Iowa. And they have an 8.5 Vegas win. I was actually a little bit surprised by that. I thought it might be like 8 or 7.5. Last year they were 6-2 and ended up being a little bit better than I thought they were going to be, considering how freaking awful Spencer Petras is. Spencer Petras is terrible, and I will stick by that. We lost to them obviously 26-20 last year, which was painful. Amir Smith-Marsette's gone, Brandon Smith is gone, Mekhi Sargent's gone. So there's some opportunity here in this game. I think they're going to return. They lost some of their O-line, but they're returning some of their best players on the O-line. And so they're still going to be a very solid O-line. There's no surprise there. Sam Laporta, tight end. Tyler Goodson, of course, a very talented running back is going to be there. So I don't know. Where are you at with this Iowa team? What do you think here defensively? Where are they at?
I mean, they're only returning 2 offensive linemen, but Tyler Lindenbaum, their center, who's their best offensive lineman, is coming back, like you said. So it's going to be pretty okay. Their defense, Jack Campbell's pretty good as a linebacker. Riley Moss was pretty okay.
Yeah. Zach Van Valkenburg.
Yeah, on the edge. He'll be a handful.
What an Iowa name. Disgusting.
Jeez, well, I know, right?
Absolutely disgusting.
So again, they're going to be good. I think it's beatable because their offense isn't that great. Obviously, I think Mekhi Sargent, Tyler
this is going to be a low-scoring game.
Is a step down from him, but Sam Laporta is going to absolutely cook us as tight ends continuously do in the Big Ten against us. A good tight end just fries us. And this
is a type of game where I could see us improving as the year goes along, where we see some better Adrian Martinez at the end of the year. Our O-line has a lot of experience at this point. You're seeing Omar Manning and Samari Torrey coming through, but we're on a stretch of playing, Ohio State and Wisconsin, so we haven't really been able to see that improvement kind of come to fruition the last few weeks.
Because we got killed.
Because we had some tough games on the road with
but we
Wisconsin
learned a lot
too.
From our film. We actually we stuck with it, got better.
I think this is the year. We are beating Iowa. I'm not confident about this, but I'm calling the upset of Iowa here at the end of the year. And this is the game that'll secure Scott Frost heading into the next year and kind of be a game now we have some hoorah with some,
Then we get to go to a bowl game type deal.
A bowl game, and Adrian Martinez is back for another year next year after this year. And just a great time. So I think we're going to win this. It's going to be, of course, very close. Like always in Memorial Stadium, it's going to be a close, scary one. Caleb, this is winnable, right? This is winnable.
I agree with you 100%. It's very winnable. I don't think Petras is anything special. Again, Mekhi Sargent is better than Goodson. So I think their run game it'll still be good because their offensive line, but not as good. I'm still going to take us to lose in a very, very, very close one in heartbreaking fashion.
Bro,
as we have.
Setting the bar low here, man.
Dude, I've picked us to beat Iowa these last 2 years, and we should have, and we haven't. So at this point,
shame on you,
Yeah, I've been fooled too many times. Again, I know this Iowa team's beatable because I've seen our mediocre Nebraska football teams play very well against them and have a great chance, and then we choke it away at the end. And that's just been our team. We, in the close games, our game management, everything else, we have collapsed as a coaching staff and as a team, and it's very, 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 very frustrating. Again, it is very winnable. I couldn't agree more, but we're not going to do it.
Alrighty, so
and I hate myself.
With that said, Caleb, what do you have us at then? That's a tough number.
That is 5-7 for the folks counting at home.
Okay, all right, 5-7.
So to recap, we beat Illinois, we beat Fordham, we beat Michigan State, we beat Northwestern, we beat Purdue.
Man, we miss a bowl game again, and it's a tough Iowa loss again. Bro, this is some deja vu moments here, man. Like, you're doing this to us like that?
I know. Yet again, we can't get the momentum because Iowa stalls us out.
Yeah,
well, actually, we stall ourselves out is really the correct.
So I have us at 7-5 then. So I have us with wins against Illinois, Fordham, Buffalo, MSU, Northwestern, Purdue, and then Iowa. So those are we differ on the Buffalo and Iowa games.
Again, I think we can really beat Buffalo. I am concerned.
Right, but you're hedging your bets. You're hedging your bets with the MSU game, with the Northwestern game, the Illinois game. You're hedging your bets.
So I think Purdue is really, really winnable. Yeah. I think 6 games is really, really attainable for this team. I think 7's not out of the possibility. I think my worst case scenario is 3 wins. I think we only beat Illinois, Fordham, and then Michigan State, Northwestern, Purdue.
Yeah. Let's talk about what worst case scenarios then. So you say 3-9. So which games would flip then? For you, if we go 3-9.
So I think we could lose Illinois, lose Northwestern, type deal, or lose Michigan State. Pick any one of those.
Right, that makes sense.
I think.
Yeah,
I feel like
3-9
Fordham
is very possible. That's what's scary. Is again, this is what I was saying. Is if you lose the Illinois game week 1, it's a tough first week. There's a lot. It's a really messy game. Both teams have 3-4 turnovers, and then you're like, we lost that, and then you play Fordham, which you win. But then you play Buffalo, and now that's a terrifying game. So now you could lose to Buffalo. Now suddenly you're like, are we going to beat MSU? Are we going to beat Purdue? Are we going to beat Northwestern?
Again, and all those are good teams that have a very good record of beating us in these. Purdue and us, we've won and lost to them. Northwestern, we've won and lost to them. Michigan State is the one team that we've really consistently beat when we've played them.
Right, so that's what gets scary. But Mel Tucker's beat us, so that's what's terrifying. So if you lose to Illinois, this is a scary season suddenly, and you're looking at, can we win 3 games? That becomes a question. If you lose to Illinois, can we win 3 games? So we need to beat Illinois. That's what we're learning here. I agree. What would that be? What reason would that be? The front 7 just isn't there, isn't as collective as we hope with Will
I think
Honus
it's just
gone.
our offense. I think our offense. Say our running backs, Dedrick Mills really got us out of trouble.
Our O-line.
And no Wandale, I think. And then
Omar Manning, Torrey are busts.
Omar Manning doesn't play that much, isn't that much of an impact player. Torrey, same thing, he's just okay. Or he's good, but Adrian Martinez can't get him the ball downfield type deal.
And turnovers still cost us.
And still turnovers are still what kills
the bane of our existence again.
Yep. So... Yeah.
Again, we don't think that's that likely, because I think we both think that our running game is going to be pretty consistent, and then our defense will be solid, and those 2 things will be enough to get us to that 5-ish win mark. But then it's can we get to that 6, 7, 8 mark? That's the question.
4 or 5, I think, is very, 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 very doable for this Nebraska team.
Yeah. So then,
obviously, it has been for the last few years. Is it the 6 and the 7 and the
8? That's where you're getting can we really elevate to that point offensively?
I think
so. What's the best case scenario?
Yeah, 8 and 4. I think is my best case scenario, and that's where we do look good. We can beat Iowa. We beat Buffalo,
Minnesota, and Minnesota's not as good.
Yeah, maybe Minnesota or Michigan's not as good as we think. One of those 2 is kind of a bust on the season. And then there we are at 8. But again, that's just a lot of good breaks and good bounces for us, which is, I think, banking on too much, especially, again, from what we've seen of Nebraska these past 5 years. Right.
I think a 9-3 is at least, you could say, possible. I would say it's very, very unlikely.
That is our miracle Hail Mary scenario.
Yeah, I would say
that's only losing to Oklahoma, Ohio State, and Wisconsin.
Wisconsin, probably, yeah. Because those teams feel like they're pretty locked and loaded to be. Obviously Wisconsin maybe you beat Wisconsin, but you lose to Iowa, something like that. But yeah, that would take Samari Torrey and Omar Manning being legit NFL talents. And then you're like, these guys could go pro.
And then a running back becoming really, really good.
Or our O-line really elevates. And which is, I think, still possible this year with maintaining, your center and your guards.
And then and then we become a top 25 defense. Again, that's just, it seems like too big of jumps for that to happen. It would be in a logical sense.
Very unlikely, but then you're suddenly, 9-3 would be a top 25 team where you're right there on the fringe of top 25, looking very, very good. And that means you're probably heading into that. And it means you're heading into that Ohio State game, with only a loss to Oklahoma in Norman. So you'd be ranked top 17 probably.
Well, that would be if we beat Wisconsin, which would be crazy. Because if that was our only loss, we'd be ranked top 15.
Oh, no, Wisconsin's after Ohio State. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we'd probably be ranked pretty high if our Oklahoma was our only loss.
Yeah, because you'd be 7-1 then at that point, heading into Ohio State game. So
that would be insane.
Yeah,
and then you only lost to a top 2 2 team. And we'd be insanely overrated.
Yeah, and that only would happen. I think that only happens if those guys are
That's
legit
everything
NFL
breaks
talents.
right for us.
That's Adrian does improve and can find those guys downfield. Again, where we said Omar Manning and Torrey make it easy to throw downfield because
and
they're
our
that
defense
good.
isn't a top 40 defense; it's a top 25, top 20 defense.
Yeah, top 25 defense, which is I think possible. Our secondary has the potential to be really, really good.
That's
our linebacking core is
that,
the question mark, and the pass
that's
rush
one
is the question
linebacker.
mark.
That means like Reimers becomes an absolute unit, which I guess could happen.
It could
and
happen.
And that also means every other linebacker takes a step up, and then
Yeah.
one of our three defensive linemen becomes a real talent as well.
Like a draftable talent, like Stilly ends up being like a 4th round draft pick or
I
something
think
like that.
more likely it'd be Ty Robinson or Daniels.
Damian Daniels.
becomes a draftable talent because I think Stilly, he's been here long enough, or where I don't think that's.
You haven't
really,
seen the upside for him.
I don't
can
think
see
that. I don't think that can jump. Yeah.
I can see that. So yeah, that's where like, if all of it plays right, and then you could talk about the other teams where like, there's a world where Iowa's not as good or Minnesota's not as good or Michigan's not as good. And then suddenly we're like, oh my word, we're beating these teams. We're 9-3. So that's a great conversation. I like that conversation. That was great. We're 9-3. Look at that.
In
much
a perfect
better.
world, in a happy sunshine
And
world.
we win a bowl game. Now we're 10-3. Fantastic.
And we feel great. Scott Frost is happy. Everybody's happy.
He carry him on our shoulders out of Memorial Stadium like he won the Super Bowl. That'll be interesting. As a whole, I think next week we're going to be doing some sort of like Scott Frost, like what are the situations for Scott Frost here, and talk more about maybe just him and make it a little bit more simple video. This ended up being, I think, our longest video of all time.
Oh,
so
baby.
that's exciting. A new record around here. This is literally a full-on podcast at this point. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Obviously, we want to do some other videos talking about maybe some of our specific players on the channel, and then we're also gonna be doing a full-on Big Ten predictions video, which in theory that could potentially change some of our predictions if we maybe learn something else about some of the other teams, something like that. So there's some opportunity there as well. So those are the videos to kind of expect here moving forward over the next few weeks heading into the year. But we hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you guys did, drop all your comments down below.
What is Nebraska going this year? Tell us. What are they? What are they doing? How are we winning the Natty? Yeah, how dumb are we?
Drop them all down below. I'm sure you already did in this past hour, but if you haven't already, make sure to do that. Drop a like on the video, hit the notifications bell, and subscribe because a lot of you guys aren't subscribed, and we appreciate that. And the notification bell, make sure you don't miss any of those random uploads that we post at 11 a.m. or 2 p.m. or 7 p.m. You never know. So drop them all down below. But we appreciate you guys. Like, comment, subscribe, share the video if you guys really enjoy it. But as always, guys, I'm Josh. That's Caleb. This has been Backseat Sports. And guys, we will see ya next time. Woo. Go Big Red, baby. Let's go.
Yeah.